So welcome to episode 9 of the Breaking Bio podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Hamblin from the University of New South Wales in Sydney. And we have some special guests with us today, but first I'm going to get to our regular co-hosts.
Hi, this is Rafael from Akron, Ohio.
Hi, I'm Tom Housley from the University of Stirling in Scotland.
And for those of you at home, that's Rafael Maya, who can't say his last name.
God damn it, who cares about my last name?
One day
I'll get it right
get that
someday.
right.
Yeah.
One day. All right. But with us on this low-budget roadshow is the Bug Chicks today. So wave hi, Bug Chicks.
Hello.
And that plays well in the audio version. So you may know them as the Bug Chicks on Twitter. You may have seen some of their videos, their science outreach. But they're here today to tell you all about what they do. So let's have it.
Great.
See, I have a great interviewing style, right?
You're a giver. I can tell that you're a giver.
Yeah.
So we're the Bug Chicks. I'm Kristie. I'm Jess. And we're entomologists.
Yeah, we're entomologists, and we often read each other's minds and finish each other's thoughts. So beware of that.
We have our master's degrees from Texas A&M University, and we decided after we graduated that we wanted to teach the world about insects and spiders. So basically, the umbrella of what we do is we teach about insects and spiders and arthropods in general.
We do it through videos, which you guys can check out on our website if you haven't seen them.
Yep.
We did have a podcast at one point.
We did.
Through Texas A&M.
It was great.
And we do some in-person teaching, and we do big projects with nonprofits as well.
Yeah. So it's a combination of all sorts of different types of media, and we're zany and a little silly, and but I would say that we are science communicators. We're science translators in a lot of ways. We just translate it in a way that maybe people haven't seen a lot of before. So that's us.
So what do you guys think your main audience is? Who are you targeting this for?
Well, with our first few videos, they're targeted toward sort of elementary and middle school students.
For teachers.
Well, and we did a set of videos for teachers who teach younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
But we recently finished up a project with Texas A&M, and it's for one of their courses for undergraduates. So we kind of teach everybody.
Yeah, we bounce all around, and that's always what people ask us, especially in the video world, like, who's your target audience? And we're horrible at answering that question because we want everyone to be our target audience, because I think that everyone encounters insects and spiders, and so I want to just convert everyone into being outdoors. So I never want to sort of close in on just one area. And I think we teach undergraduates in kind of the same way that we teach kindergartners. Mm-hmm. We don't really dumb anything down. We speak the same language to both sort of subsets of students. So everyone's our audience. You are our audience.
Me?
Yeah, I was just watching some of your cultural entomology ones for the Texas University, and I had this idea that maybe you guys did mostly stuff for kindergarten or school children, and I just thought, holy shit, I'm learning stuff already.
Oh, that's great. That makes me really happy, actually.
Oh God, you have no idea how much I learned out of the few videos I saw. It's kind of sad, actually.
High five. I used to lecture that course at Texas A&M. It's called Insects and Human Society, and it's a non-majors course. So you get people from all over the university trying to get the science credit to fulfill their graduation requirements. And none of them want to be there in the beginning. And those are my favorite students to teach, is the students who don't want to learn about bugs, because that's a challenge. It's a real fun challenge. And when I lectured that course, I taught it in a different way than the man who had created the course. He teaches with magic tricks. He's awesome. His name's Dr. Roger Gold. But I can't do magic tricks. But I was an actor, so I'm real, obviously animated and insane. So I brought in this whole mythology and culture segment because I love to travel. And that's, I think, our favorite part of the videos is bringing in this impact that insects have had on mythology and culture. Like we redid the Khan scene from Wrath of Khan, Star Trek.
Nice.
In our shed. In our shed. With live earwigs when we're crawled into Jessica's ear. It's good.
Oh wow! I think there was some geekgasm somewhere.
Yeah.
So kind of building up on that, like not your target audience, but what audience do you think you get like a stronger response? Like people get really into it. Is it like mostly other scientists or like kids? And
well, we have a lot of people our age, like between like 25 and 35. Keep that nice and broad there. But yeah, like people our own age, I think, are the ones that are
and also parents of children. When we teach in the schools, obviously the children really like it. We have a big arthropod zoo that we bring, and it's very interactive. They get to touch and pet and hold, and that's sort of like basic insect outreach. But we have some kids that they are young, they are little, 3 to 5, and they will watch all of our videos. We were contacted by a woman in Seattle who's a nanny, and her kids work all week to get 100 points by doing tasks and chores and learning exercises to get 15 minutes of TV time. And every week they choose the Bug Chicks, which is,
nice.
out of all of the crap on TV that they could choose, and then they choose the Bug Chicks. It's so exciting. And so we actually drove up to Seattle to meet these kids, and we were in Seattle teaching at the Burke Museum and just decided to meet these kids, and we did a sidewalk bug show for them on the sidewalk in Seattle. We brought all of our bins and we're like showing them tarantulas and
making forts on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we made a fort to show the fluorescence of scorpions, and so again, I think we don't care as long as anyone's interested.
Do you guys end up dealing with a lot of like phobias and people having bad reactions to your subject material?
Maybe at
yeah,
first.
bad reaction.
A couple of our animals in particular, like we have hissing cockroaches, and of course, people's initial reaction is, and
and it's mostly, I would say, the teachers. And so now I've gotten into this this thing where just in the very beginning we say that all adults are going to hold and pet and touch, and thank you so much for your cooperation because we don't want to promote fear to the younger generation. And I just cut it off at the knees because when you have a teacher, especially a young children's teacher or a science teacher who goes, I like animals, I just don't like bugs. That woman, whoever that is, my blood boils. It makes me. You shouldn't be allowed near children if you promote fear of the natural world. That's how I feel. Pretty strongly about it.
Well, Jesus, don't soft pedal that.
She's good cop. I'm not so much. Right.
No, but I mean, it's seriously an issue though, because I mean, if kids are influenced by the adults that they're around, and if they're around someone who's constantly afraid of ridiculous things,
minimize their fear. That's what I like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like don't ruin somebody else's curiosity, somebody else's life.
Right. However, I think that the way that we teach really gets people into it.
Yeah.
And we never force. We use a little bit of positive peer pressure, and we use peer teaching as well. You know the kids who are going to touch and hold a bug, and so what we do is we pull those kids out and we make them the front of the circle, so that if they're holding it, then the rest of the kids feel more comfortable. And it's usually some of the quiet kids who are these real, these kids who just like to look at stuff and be quiet. And they get an opportunity to become a leader and a teacher in their classroom and show the other kids how it's done. And the teachers do understand that sometimes they come to us and they say, look, I'm really afraid of bugs. Can you, I just wanted to let you know. And we really appreciate that. And we'll work with them on that. And honestly, we have never, ever had someone still have the same fear of bugs that they came in with at the end.
There was a woman at a workshop that we did a few months ago who was absolutely terrified of spiders. And she spent the entire workshop in another room. And then as we were packing up to leave, she came up and she was talking to us from the doorway. And as we talked, she got progressively closer and closer and closer to us. Until finally, we kept the lids on our containers with the animals in them. But she was crying and she was like, "It's beautiful," and talking about how gorgeous the spider was. And even though she wasn't to the point where we could open the lid and show her very, very close, right. She was. I was like, "Nice, lady, well played."
Because fear and fascination are the same thing. They're. I wish we could do that study that I want to do. Someone's probably already done it. Where you trace where the brain lights up for fear and for fascination. Someone's done that. We just have to find it. It's Google Scholar that. But seriously, I think it is the same thing.
Hardwire.
And people are fascinated by what scares them. That's why we like scary movies.
Well, it makes it emotionally salient, anyways.
Right. At least people are present when they're afraid. I would take fear over apathy any day.
You kind of have the evil villainous thing going on there. I'll take it. Sorry, Tom.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you have some kind of a huge menagerie of insects and spiders and stuff around. Do you keep them in? Does one of you just have a home that's overrun by these? Or?
Well, they tend to live in our office. But
I think we should be honest about our living situation.
But in general, they live in our office. Right now, they're in my room.
Yes, they're in Jessica's room. My husband and I and Jessica all live together. We all moved from Texas up to Portland about a year and a half ago, and recession times and a new business and all of that. It is more sense financially for us to live together, and so Jessica and I spend way too much time together. and like right now we're in our little basement office in the house, and so the animals are with us all the time. They used to live with me, and then Jessica proved that she wouldn't kill every tarantula that I gave her. I would give her a tarantula, and 2 days later
it was a total accident.
Look, if you guys are going to implode and start throwing, spiders at each other, can you do it on video?
We will.
I think some people need to see that.
That would really boost our numbers, I think.
We have 4 different species of tarantula. We have 2 different species of cockroach. We have some beetles.
Mm-hmm. We have some scorpions.
We have a whipped scorpion right now.
Nice.
A Euripidgid,
a praying mantis.
We have a praying mantis. So it rotates, but we have sort of some anchor animals. And then being in the Pacific Northwest, whenever we can, we try to collect some things to show kids what's around when we're teaching, and then we obviously re-release them. That's what we have. We have a gorgeous Phasmagygus in a glass case, a big walking stick with wings from Papua New Guinea.
Huh.
Just gorgeous.
How did you get that?
I bought it for myself for a birthday present when I was 22. Before I'd ever studied bugs, really, I was in my first entomology course after leaving. So I have a degree in classical theater, and I was a dancer. And after I graduated with my bachelor's of fine arts, I went back to school a couple years later for my biology degree. And I have almost a second bachelor's in environmental biology. And it was during that I took an entomology course, and that was only because they offered either that or chemistry. I was like, I'll do bugs. So chemistry is very cool, though, children. So I bought it for myself. at an art shop in Philadelphia, not knowing about the illegal insect trade. So I'm not exactly sure where the specimen came from or if it was collected nicely or morally or whatever that word is. Ethically. There we go. So so now we use it as a teaching tool and to teach about the insect trade as well.
Excuse me, I just need to talk to the police for a minute.
That would be Interpol, though, wouldn't it? Because you're fairly
Fine. That's right. Be sure to direct me to the correct agency to pick you up. That'd be great. I gotta ask this, even though it may seem like a bit of a dippy question, but do you guys take any static for using the name bug chicks, in the more informal usage of the word, rather than the scientifically correct?
Okay, for bug or for chicks?
Bug.
Bug. Okay. Because it's an interesting question, both of those.
Actually, yeah, you can address both of those if you want, but.
Well, for the chicks part, okay, so for the bugs, there was one woman in particular who just came flat out and called us on it.
We were at the National Science Teachers Association convention where we sort of launched as the bug chicks for the first time. And she said, I'm not even going to talk to you because
you're not being scientifically correct or something
yeah.
like that.
And so that really made me, first of all, like, we know because we have our master's degrees in entomology, so we get it, we understand. But we're not here to teach other entomologists. We're here to teach the general public. And the general public uses the word bug. That becomes a teaching opportunity for us. So whenever we are teaching, we talk about the term bug and what it really means, and so we just use that as an opportunity. And I wrote a blog post about this specifically because I'm a little bit of a stress bucket and it kept me up. I was like, oh, should we be the insect girls? I don't know, or the arthropod chicks. It just doesn't.
Well, the true bug chicks might work.
True bug chicks. But then we could only talk about, Heteropterans.
Yeah.
And we don't want to just do that. So,
and for the most part, that was the only one that was sort of, like she was really obnoxious about it. But we've had some questions. Like, why are you guys called the bug chicks if you teach about everything, So, I mean, but beyond that one incident, there hasn't been any flack or anything like that.
No. And I think most science, most of the people in academia that we work with understand that we are using that for a very specific purpose, and that's to teach about arthropods in general. And we haven't caught flack from the people that we care most about, and we asked them about it before we did it. So that's how I feel about that. What do you guys think about it, though?
I have absolutely no problem with it, but I don't know. Tom, what do you think?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I was going to demand immediately that you stick only to the hemiptera. No, I think it'd be fairly churlish to get on anyone's back about that, especially if you were called something like the creepy crawly chicks, then that would just be weird.
Yeah, exactly.
And we should get the opinion from the resident bird guy.
Yeah, as someone who studies bird and speaks English as a second language, I didn't even think there was an issue with that. So that ground you have covered, yeah.
Wonderful. We've passed the river.
Yes, your scientific peers have decided it's okay.
Yes.
So
now the scientific usage of chicks.
Yeah, you guys alluded to that. So
chicks thing. Some women
are really uncomfortable calling us bug chicks. They call us the bug ladies.
And, when we first, so this idea was pitched to us, before, back in the day, when I asked Jessica to be my partner, my business partner for like science communication and teaching, I had this company called Solpugid Productions because I studied Solifuge arachnids in Kenya. And so I named our company Solpugid Productions. No one is going to say that. No one can spell it. No one can read it. No one knows what it is. It was the worst idea I've ever had. I am mature enough to say that I have a lot of great ideas. That was not one of them. And so,
well, there's no trademark confusion anyways.
well, that's what I thought. I was like, no one can also music production. Anyway, so about 3 years into our failing business, at that point, we were pitched this idea of making a couple of bug videos as ourselves, because at this point we were just filming other people's bug videos for Texas A&M and stuff like that. And he said, well, what about the bug ladies? And we just thought it sounded so old, you know? It's like
like the Catwoman or like a bag lady.
Yeah,
or something
it felt really
Yeah.
old. So we immediately said, what about the bug chicks? And then it just sounded so good and it sounded so young, and it sort of encompasses everything about the way we teach. It's young, it's fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And that was what was important to us. And I have a hard time even calling myself a woman at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I still call myself a girl.
Bizarre, but it's
I'm married, I'm 34. I have a hard time with it. So I don't care about the word chicks. I call other girls chicks. I call guys dudes. I call little kids dudes. I don't care. But some people get real freaked out about it.
Mm.
Yeah, I can see that.
But also, but maybe, maybe they need to focus on something else, because that's it seems like a really minor thing to focus on. The world is big and there are big problems, and education is a big problem. And if you're going to fault us for teaching kids in a language that is fun but never dumbs it down by calling ourselves chicks, then maybe you're not our target audience.
Well, maybe you keep the bug ladies in reserve, like forever, if you're ever presenting for the Queen,
Right. If we're presenting, we'll do that. And like, maybe when we're
Good take.
we'll transform into the bug ladies.
Yeah,
It's an option.
it's a metamorphosis.
Presenting to the Queen.
So I have a kind of follow-on question from that. I guess, seeing as our resident actual science communicator and feminist Lauren is away, I was just wondering, we see so many science toys and stuff that are targeted at little boys, and it's all sort of explosions and bug hunting for boys, and for girls it's making soap and perfume. And I was just wondering if you guys felt like were you trying to do something to sort of push away from that, seeing as you're both women and maybe targeting girls, or is that just a happy side effect from doing what you love doing?
Sorry, can I just interject? But where do you get the toy to make soap? Who's doing that?
It was like
Boiling down animal fat in your backyard? Or?
Kind of crossover.
Well, sorry.
I had this image of you, after the podcast, pouring mixing soaps. It's good.
Got my animal fat in my lye. Well,
I don't know. I think for at least myself, I never thought about because we focus on making it accessible to everybody. I think at first I at least was not thinking about targeting girls in particular to sort of foster the love of science, and that's something that came along as we were, as we sort of progressed. But it has definitely become a part of what we do, almost inadvertently and inescapably, because we are women, and I think and I think other people also project that back onto us. Thank you for being such a role model for my daughter. Oh, I'm so glad that I found you. My daughter likes bugs, and I didn't know what to do, and we're so happy about that. I always sort of felt when I first started this that we need more women talking about. If you just if you just go to Animal Planet or any of the TV shows, it's the guys who talk about wildlife and the women talk about domestic animals. I love dogs and cats, but lions and tigers and bears are also pretty.
You know, I mean, I feel like I studied camel spiders in East Africa. Where were the women who were talking about animals? And that's why Jane Goodall is such a, women like Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey to an extent, maybe minus the crazy, and then, you know, I think always in the back of my mind it was, hey, girls can do this too. We're not flag carrying, marchy, you know.
But it's nice to be inspiring to girls who love bugs, and we've done a couple of like Girl Scout troop bug badges and things.
Yeah, that's
and the girls freak out over the bugs, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, well, we're not really all that popular in school because we like bugs, and it's like, you know what, you are awesome, you know, and you know, and I can understand that it's difficult for kids who like girls.
Were
especially.
you popular in school?
Not really.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of the people hosting and or listening to the podcast weren't popular in school.
But we're popular now, aren't we? Not really.
Yeah. Just going to let that slide right past. Actually, you know, that kind of raises a question I was meaning to bring up with you guys. And it's two sides of the same coin in a way. Because on one hand, you know, there's a known problem with, you know, people. So you guys did your master's degrees, and you decided to take a different path from the, you know, traditional get a PhD, become a faculty member, you know, type deal. And people call that, yeah, people call that a leaky pipeline, right? They view you as a failure in some way because you didn't follow that path. And on the other hand, there's, you know, I actually think that we need to, you know, to encourage a lot of the stuff like that you guys do. You may have heard me saying this last time with Lauren, that you know, different paths are not only valid, but they're necessary. We need more people like you guys popularizing science and, you know, getting it out there for everyone. So I wonder how you feel about this kind of issue. Where do you know, how do you guys feel about the traditional paths for academia and being, you know, not dropping out, but changing paths to become science communicators and so on?
I'll let you start with that one.
So, okay. Okay.
I broke the bug chicks. All right.
I'm trying not to. I get a bit ranty, so I'm gonna try and tone it down.
Oh no, you can go full rant. Hit it,
please.
Okay, great. So PG-13. Bug chicks.
Oh no,
over. Listen.
You guys can do whatever you want, but as the bug chicks, so Jess and I are not PG, not PG-13 either. But as the bug chicks, we are. So
fair enough.
We have to live inside the bug chicks world right now. I feel very strongly about this. I feel that, you know, when you're in grad school, you would hear, "Oh, are you here to do a PhD?" And someone would go, "No, just a master's." Like the word "just" makes. I think we should get rid of the word "just" in the English language. It is a nasty, evil word. I think that we desperately need. I agree with you, Steve. That we desperately need to diversify the outcome of science educations, because you can't just go through this idea of undergrad, master's, PhD, or the worst, undergrad straight to PhD, and then you become a faculty member, and then you live in that world that is created around that world, and nothing really gets out of that world in a lot of ways. And we need people who can bridge the gap, can translate, can show the science world for what it really is. There are so many characters in the science world, and I think people don't understand that science is full of personality, and we need those personalities to shine. And I was very lucky to have a major professor when I was a master's student who recognized that I personally was not going to follow the normal path. I have a degree in theater. I think he knew that already, but my path was going to be very different, and I warned him about this. I was like, look, I might get a PhD someday. that's not like that option is closed to me, and it's definitely something I'm interested in. But for right now in my life, I feel that my role can be more effective doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah. And also, Kristie mentioned the translating part. You know, how can you expect the next generation of scientists to be like, how can you expect a lot of people to want to do science if it's not taught to them in a way that they understand? Because scientists read scientific journals. You know, people like non-scientists generally don't read that stuff, and if they did, you know, what basis do they have to actually understand the research that's in there unless someone is around to teach it to them? You know, so I think that you know, even though we are not in academia, you know, that the outreach part of it, and anyone who wants to do outreach, I think it's necessary. It has to be there, you know, to encourage the next generation. Yeah,
We're essential, basically.
So, I mean, you touched on a bunch of topics that we covered here in the past, like the value of a master's and alternative careers and doing outreach, which is something, you know, we worry about a lot, and there's a lot of people that have been really interested in this. So I wanted to go back. You mentioned before your previous failed business attempt. So I was kind of curious, like, so how are things doing now? And like, if anyone that's viewing this that might be interested in either pursuing that, like a more outreach-based career, or completely changing, like, what would you suggest, like more like in practical, like how to get it done right, you know?
And if you want to send us your financial statements, we'll post those up on the blog.
I'll just open my empty wallet and I can just... I'm kidding. You know what? My number one advice is if you want to live an alternative career, I don't even know that we're that alternative, but if you want to live a career in science that is outside the norm, you go for it with, I'm looking right in the camera, you go for it with everything in your heart and soul, because the world is changing rapidly. 4 years ago, there were science jobs, and now not so much. And Jessica and I just decided...
Thanks for that.
Yeah, still talking down the camera right at us.
Yeah.
But
for the listeners at home, they just told us we're screwed.
You guys have jobs. But what I'm saying is, if you don't want to go that route, you can create a life out of everything that you have, out of your own background. And financially, it is hard. It is very difficult. Branding is essential, and we didn't realize that with the whole Soul Fusion Productions thing too. But that was bad branding, and essentially that was a bad business decision because we weren't business people. We didn't know. We fuel a lot of this on passion and excitement, and there's lulls, and then something awesome will happen, and it will fuel us to get to the next level. And I really honestly believe that if you create quality work, it will build and build and build. And that's for any profession. You know, if you're a crappy dentist, you're not going to get more clients. You know, be good at what you do. That's my
and stick with it, because it always takes longer than you expect.
Woo.
So, you know, don't expect anything amazing in, I mean, maybe. But it's taken us, so what, we started together in
2008, I would say
2008, but we weren't able to actually go full time until this year. You know, we were working other jobs to live
to support this.
So yeah, stick with it. And
you have to stick with it.
Don't get discouraged.
And you know, the great thing about Twitter and about the social media is that now there are lots of people that are creating their own lives and they're talking about it more. But when we were doing this 4 years ago, we weren't on Twitter and we weren't on really even Facebook, and we felt very alone.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can go at any time and have a conversation with other people who are trying to do the same thing. So there's a community of us who are trying to live a life that's slightly outside the norm. And I think the essential thing is find out what you're good at and stick to it. If you're not, like Jessica and I are not huge on Facebook. We're not huge on Twitter. We don't have a ton of fans. But our work builds all the time, and like recently we met Jane Goodall. We met Dr. Jane Goodall, and now we're working on a project with her because we met her through a dude on Craigslist. It's a nightmare story, and then and we took a chance, and he said, "Hey, do you want to meet Jane Goodall?" And we were like, "We could be murdered. We could meet Jane Goodall.
Let's do this."
And we met her and had an hour with her, drinking tea and eating cupcakes and talking about our work. And we brought her our DVDs, and we just jumped through that window of opportunity and went, "Here you go, Dr. Goodall. If you like our work, we would love to work with you."
And she liked our work, and here we are working with her.
So that doesn't necessarily translate into money for us at this moment in that project, but I don't care.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting question, an interesting aspect of this. And I don't want to, turn this into a business podcast or dig too deeply into your guys' life here. But, for people at home wondering, how do you get into this sort of thing? On the internet, you see a lot of, and you guys are doing a lot of this. You're giving away a lot of content, right? Mm-hmm. So in the end, what is your product? What do you monetize? How do you make a living?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the content that you see online has actually been commissioned, and then we are allowed to show it. So the first 3 Bug Chicks videos were commissioned by Texas A&M. The second 3 were commissioned because the U.S. Forest Service saw the first 3 and asked us to create some for them. And then Texas A&M came back and asked for 21 more videos. And the National Life Science Center asked us to do some.
And then we've done a few on our own, just for us.
We do a few on our own, and then and that builds this body of work that now we can go, okay, how do we monetize this for ourselves? And we're going to start a web series, and I think now we know enough about how to do it so that could be successful. Because 3 years ago it would have been a nightmare, but now we could maybe make it work. So the in-person teaching is monetized. We get paid for that. Public appearances, things like that, we get paid. And what else do we get paid for? That's about it.
Yeah. Bug wrangling.
We were asked to be bug wranglers on a commercial once. That was fun. Nice. And the writing, we write on our blog, and we actually blog for NPR Science Friday each Wednesday, which is a real special, kind of an honor, So we do that for free, but that's something that gives us incredible publicity that we wouldn't have gotten any other way. So we weigh those questions pretty heavily, like kind of this horrible question of what's in it for us to do this for free. But we do a lot for free, but we're managing somehow.
Yeah,
we're figuring it out.
Huh. Well, let me say I'm glad.
Thank you. Thanks.
What's the project you're doing with Jane Goodall?
It is an arthropod conservation of the Eastern Arc Mountains in Tanzania project.
So we're gonna build a library, okay, and we're gonna have the library supplied with computers and resources, books, and things like that. And all of the Roots and Shoots clubs in the surrounding communities will have this as sort of a centralized meeting place.
And we'll go over and we'll create a manual for arthropod identification, and we'll do a training project with the teachers so that it becomes a more sustainable project. Because when you just teach students, that knowledge goes away with the students. But when you train teachers, you have that centralized knowledge, and so you can actually, it'll reverberate out into the community. So we'll do teacher training. Now, Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program is in 120 countries. So if this is our pilot program, we have the opportunity to reach all 120 countries, all of a sudden that becomes a life's work. And I don't know if this is going to happen. I mean, we're still fundraising. There's not a library.
Oh, it will happen.
I'm too excited.
It will happen.
It will happen. But that's our idea. We'll do this pilot project in Tanzania, and then hopefully with partner organizations, we'll be able to spread that to 120 countries. And that will be our life's, our work. That will be our work. And Jessica and I, 5 years ago, I brought Jessica with me. I paid for her on my student loans. You guys did. I thought this was a great idea.
I thought it was a great idea too.
I brought her with me to Kenya for 6 months while I was studying solifuges. And she became my field assistant, and we collected solifuges together. And I said, look, come see what I do. I teach these kids. You maybe don't want to do lab work. Come with me and see if this is what you want to do. And so
my professor was very upset because it was in the middle of my research. But it was good. It was awesome.
It all worked out for the best. And so 5 years ago, I remember laying in a tent with Jess going, man, how can we get back here? How do we get back to East Africa and do this type of work? Because we didn't want to come back as tourists. We didn't want to come back as visitors. We want to come back and do good work. And we were patient and we waited, and now it's going to be hopefully with the Jane Goodall Institute, which is huge.
You're a little bit excited about it.
I just want to hug and cheer and dance. Yeah.
So the main goal of the project is to build knowledge locally then at these places.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Because this area that we're working with, there's a lot of what are they called? The mountaintop forests.
Yeah.
Where they're isolated and they're surrounded on all sides with agriculture. Mm-hmm. And it's just the farms are sort of encroaching on these forests, and no one really knows what's in them, And
yeah.
So part of that's going to be, figuring out,
cataloging the species.
Yes, exactly. What kind of animals are there and making a record of it.
Really important.
It's really cool.
That does sound really cool. Although really all I got out of that is now I know somebody in East Africa.
Do you want to work in East Africa?
Oh God, I would be terrible. I am not a field biologist.
Just in general? Or there in particular?
I just everywhere. Jesus. Nature hates me, I hate nature. What can I say?
And yet a biologist.
Hey, I have often claimed to be the world's worst biologist. I'm not going to lie.
So what's your focus?
Oh, I'm a theoretician, so I get to play with math and call it science.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And right now I'm actually working on viruses and bacteria. So it's all theoretical, but so nothing out in the field, none of those nasty animals. Says the guy with a PhD in behavioral ecology. I'm awesome. Somebody else, please take this away from my failings.
I wanted to ask about your camel spider research, because I read your little story about how you first saw a camel spider, and I was wondering if you could tell our listeners that, and also maybe describe camel spiders so that we can give people arachnophobia through their ears.
Yes. So my first time in East Africa, I had taken one entomology course.
The one that you took instead of chemistry?
The one that I took instead of chemistry. And I went to East Africa because the only reason why I went back to university was to go on this study abroad program, because I wanted to be Jane Goodall. Basically, I wanted to go live in Africa and study animals. And I was studying large mammals. With this study abroad group, we were all studying large mammals. And I saw a solifuge. The first time I saw a solifuge, I heard a scream in the middle of the night, and I believe it was my friend Harry, and he was coming out of the bathroom, and just one of those screams where it's something good, and so I ran with my bug net to go suss out the situation. And this thing was on the sidewalk, and it was quite large, about the size of the palm of my hand, and reddish, rusty brown. and it looked like it had 10 legs, right? Because I didn't know about pedipalps at this point, because I had no idea. And I went to get it with my net, and it ran up the side of the bathroom, and it stopped at eye height, and it turned, and it opened its chelicerae, right? Its big jaws like this, and it raised up on its back 2 pairs of hind legs, and it hissed at me. And that was it. I mean, that is my story of love at true sight. My life changed the moment I dedicated myself to, I wanted to study that animal in East Africa, in Kenya. That's what I wanted to do. And so 3 years later, I found the only dude who had studied them in Africa in the last 100 years, and he became my professor. And he was at Texas A&M, and I went back to study camel spiders. So solifuges, right? They're arachnids. They have long leg-like pedipalps with a suctorial organ at the end. It kind of looks like those Garfields where they go baby on board with the little suction cups, yeah? And they can climb surfaces with just their pedipalps. So it would be like us climbing a skyscraper with our lips, right? And so their legs kind of hang as they climb. And then they have no venom. People are terrified of these animals. There's lots of mythology surrounding them. They don't really bite. I mean, some of the larger ones could get a nip in on you.
But we were catching them with our hands.
Yeah.
There. So
they're pretty fragile. They're so fast you have to be really careful not to slam your hand on them and cut them in half with your hands. So, basically the coolest animals on the planet. Hands down.
You know, you combine the lip climbing with Bug Girl's rants on where Spider-Man's webs come from, and you got one messed up superhero.
I know. Can you imagine a camel spider superhero?
Well, yeah, which is why I'm probably going to have nightmares tonight.
Yeah, so my thesis work was, this was the first time that any survey had been done in East Africa. So I did biology, distribution, and diversity of solifuges. And then I did a feeding behavior study to see not just what they ate, but what they were capable of eating, because there are so many anecdotal reports in the literature about them being able to eat anything that I wanted to do a test on that. It's hard statistically to run a test on that, but I fed them some pretty noxious ants and some millipedes with repugnatorial cyanogenic compounds, and did a feeding study on that. And then what was the third?
I was just wondering what exactly you meant by that, whether you just have a camel spider in a room and you just start pushing like sheep and small children in.
Why didn't I think of that? It would not have been an elegant experimental design, but it would have been awesome.
The Scotsman goes to sheep. There's,
Always. So
Yeah.
And then small children.
It's a modest proposal for spiders.
and then I did a trophic level study. Also, I dissected burrowing owl pellets from the southwest of America and determined the abundance of solifuge prey as compared to other arthropod prey in the burrowing owl pellets. So I did a trophic level study. And then my last chapter of my thesis was on the importance of education in science.
Nice.
That's what I did for my thesis. A bit all over. So, yeah.
Well, that part consisted of some pretty awesome workshops, though, in Kenya.
Yeah, we did some cool stuff in Kenya. We did a museum exhibit, and we taught hundreds of kids crammed into a classroom with no lights and a dirt floor. And
Kristie was rocking the Swahili. It was pretty awesome.
It was really fun. It was an exceptionally awesome time.
So for the listeners at home, let's have a little Swahili.
Okay. Okay.
There's whispering now.
Museums of Kenya. So I collect insects and spiders with the museums of Kenya. Habari yako? How are you? Gina. I was about to say my name. Barabaracarisa. Barabaracarisa. That's totally fine. Thank you. That made me happy. You were really happy.
I couldn't resist. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So that's a little Swahili. I know more Shang than I know Swahili. Shang is the Nairobi youth slang. And being a blonde girl in Nairobi, it helps to know girl slang, I found. So,
there was an incident at the Matatu stand where the buses there, and we were being separated, and
Jessica was being manhandled by all. It was our third day in Kenya,
and I'm being dragged off in one direction, and Kristie's being pushed off in another direction. And Kristie she just yelled. I don't even remember what it was.
I yelled a football saying, which basically.
You should still keep it PG-13.
Yeah, I yelled basically, calm down. The field is small. You're gonna hit the wall. Which is this it's like an indoor soccer saying.
Yeah.
It's to get everyone to calm down
But everybody calm down.
Yelled it, and no one bothered us at the Matatu stand. We came for 6 months. They were like, they're cool, just let us.
This is their bus. This is where they go.
That was nice. But Jessica and I bought a truck. We bought a 1960s, 70s Land Cruiser on a credit card.
For those of you listening at home, that's generally a bad idea.
That's not a good idea. It was a business credit card, and I maxed it out in the first day of being in Kenya. We bought this truck, and it was huge. It was so tall that I could not reach my hand up. And
inside, we could almost stand up completely.
It was amazing. We got spider stickers put on it, and we called it the Bui Bui Kubwa, which means big spider. And it was green. It was huge.
And every time we'd come in from being out in the field, they would open the gates of the campground that we were staying at, and they'd all be like, "Kubwa, boy, Kubwa!" As we drove in, that was awesome.
It was a pretty rock star. I wouldn't do that. But being in Kenya was pretty fun, and it was a nightmare. It lost gears as we were driving up the Rift Valley. I had to start it in third gear. It was a pretty epic truck.
We lost our brakes.
But then we sold it to the president of Earthwatch in Kenya
for the same that we spent on it.
So
it's quite a nice return there.
It's all right.
So I'm just looking for a news story about the president of Earthwatch going over a cliff because he has no brakes.
Well, it's a bad thought.
Yeah.
Remember, you said that on air. This is.
Yes, we did. Dr. David Harper, he bought our truck. He's the director of Earthwatch in Kenya.
Yes.
He is. And he runs the big flamingo survey at Lake Baringo and Bavaria.
Mm-hmm.
And he liked old trucks, and he bought our truck. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
I think about my daily life, and I don't have anything like that.
Today my computer crashed.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago when we were grad students. We've been out of grad school now for a while. I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big day for me during grad school was installing Linux. I mean. Oh, dear God.
But everybody's got field stories, right?
Yeah.
Rafael, I bet you have field stories.
I'm trying to think. Like, I did my field work in a farm. It wasn't too exciting.
Tom, you've got to.
Well, yeah, I just like seeing man wolves and stuff like that in the field was cool. But
That's
seeing,
cool.
seeing what now?
Sorry, seeing what?
I heard man wolves.
That's what I heard.
M-A-N-A-E-D.
Werewolves are real.
No, I'm not a Twilight fan. No, it's this.
You heard it here first. Rafael is Team Jacob.
It's a like a Brazilian savanna wolf. Like, I don't know if it's how related. I don't know how related it is to wolves, but it's maned wolf. I think that's how it's called. It's M-A-N-A-E-D.
Oh, maned wolf.
Maned wolf. Okay.
Oh. I was wondering. You're a fan. I was like, well, we gotta go to Brazil.
I'm sorry to say,
That's-
the best story I have is of a zebrafinch pecking the crap out of my hand. I mean, that's all
pretty
I
good.
got. Tom, what do you?
Dude, I just stand in a laboratory all day and watch crickets have sex. I occasionally wank them off. What is it?
And sorry, and do what?
No, no.
Don't worry. Every podcast, in some fashion or another, comes back to wanking off crickets. It's
Okay.
You heard that.
Okay.
Not allowed to repeat.
I thought I didn't hear it right. But
Oh, you did. You did. We try not to, but we do anyways.
Nice.
They're very easily pleased.
Good to know.
Oh crap.
I have a list now of questions and comments that will have to wait.
Did Rafael just?
Yeah, that happens occasionally.
Okay.
Anytime I start talking about wanking off crickets, then Rafael just has to go away for some reason.
Disappears. Interesting.
Yeah, he'll be back in 5 minutes. Be fine.
Yeah.
Stop.
What? Nothing.
Well, we've actually been going at this for about an hour now, and I could do this all day. You guys are awesome. But any other questions for the bug chicks here?
We should definitely have the standard. What's your favorite bug?
Bullet.
Again, for the listeners at home, that was a very disgusted expression.
Only recently has it become bullet ants for me.
Oh yeah, they're pretty badass.
Because I love aphids, but then we saw bullet ants, and I've changed. I've changed.
Weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so boring. I just want to say solifuges all the time.
Well, they're pretty amazing. They're awesome.
Eat through plastic.
Actually, you know what? We recently did an episode on Endiodina on web spinners. And I got to film a couple of them, and we made the wings with the blood sinus that fills with aquarium tubing. And I had my husband sit behind me with a bucket of orange juice, sucking the aquarium tubing to make the blood sinuses So the
fill.
wings would
The
expand.
wings inflate. And ever since I learned about how the males inflate their wings and deflate their wings, I think male web spinners are pretty cool enough. They're pretty elusive. You don't see them very often, but I think they're really neat. Yeah, male web spinners.
Nice
Awesome.
choice.
So, you've dropped him in a couple times. So I got to ask, how does your husband feel about all this? Is he a big bug fan, or is he?
He's a nature fan. He's a park ranger, so it works. Definitely. And he's from Australia, and as you know, Australia has some awesome arthropods. And if you don't know, you need to get outside.
Yeah, that's unlikely to happen anytime soon.
So he's into it. I think he's the most patient man. In the world. He's very patient with us because we're constantly together and we're constantly
Talking bugs and
talking
filming
and filming. But he helps us film. He's kind of our safety manager. He's a canyoner. So whenever we need to get some rigging up, like we need to be rigged up into a tree, or we need to be lowered down into a trench, or we need to film something bizarrely, he sort of handles that for us. And so he's an integral part of the Bug Chicks.
Sometimes he helps us with editing our videos.
He's also a really good final eye for things, and I really trust his judgment. He's got a really good, because he doesn't get so wrapped up in the funniness of it. We're overly charmed by ourselves sometimes. He's like, yeah, it doesn't serve the video, cut it out. And so he's
nice to have a more objective opinion.
Yeah, he's helpful in that way.
All right. Well, in that case, let's. I think we can call that a wrap here. Unless there's anything else you guys want to say, or.
No, we love Breaking Bio.
Breaking Bio rocks.
Little plug there for you. It's good. Let's do it. And
Breaking news.
The
Bug chicks say Breaking Bio rocks.
This is really fun, and we love what you guys are doing. And this is a way more fun way to do a podcast than what you and I did.
Amen.
Yeah, genius. Good idea.
Yeah, we'll talk about quality later. All right then. Well, so let's call it a wrap. And thank you for joining us for episode 9 of the Breaking Bio podcast with our special guest, the Bug Chicks. And we'll see you guys next time. Wave goodbye at this point, including Rafael, who's just there we go.
Like to see some of the Bug Chicks videos and learn more about our work, you can visit thebugchicks.com. And you can also check us out on Twitter at @thebugchicks.
The word kalembola comes from the Greek kol, which means glue, and embol, which means bolt or wedge. This refers to an organ called a coliphore on the underside of the abdomen that secretes a fluid that helps keep these little guys hydrated. It inflates, stop it, it inflates and can reach all over the body. Además, no es temporada de la polilla de la yuca, así que decidimos simularlo para ti. Un poco de teatro de polinización en el desierto. Primero necesitamos la polilla de la yuca. Estas polillas son el único insecto que polinizan la planta de la yuca. The male and female spend the winter together in their cozy burrow. When they finally decide it's time to mate, they will often hold each other's cerci.
A male earwig's penis is very delicate. That's why they have two, in case one breaks off.
After they mate, they create a space for the female to lay her eggs. But after they're laid, she has no use for the male. She kicks him out. Out! The female then cares for her offspring alone after they hatch, but her patience does run thin. If her young stay too long, she'll eat them.
We filmed 3 of the most famous ant species in the world in Costa Rica: bullet ants, leafcutter ants, and army ants.
We are sitting right next to a bullet ant nest. Bullet ants are Paraponera clavata, and they are infamous in the neotropics for their intense, brilliant pain of their sting. This is the nest right here. See this right here? I'm pointing my little stick at it.
They build their nests out of soil at the base of trees, and they forage in the treetops and along the branches.
And so every night that we've been out this week filming, we have seen bullet ants, and they're hard to miss. The workers are about an inch long. They are a shiny black with lots of hairs all over their bodies. We filmed a bullet ant stinging repeatedly a large caterpillar and trying to drag it up a stem.
Praying mantis kung fu. There is a style of kung fu that is based on the predatory hunting methods of the praying mantis, complete with wrist strikes and hits to pressure points and really low stances, and it is awesome.
Awesome. Mantids rule.